So carrying on the autumn theme, I thought this week I'd just do a little bit on autumn trees. So
They're
just
not green, are they, Paul?
sorry?
They're not green, are they?
They're not green.
It's green.
That's what I did yesterday. It's sort of starting to go autumny, but not a little bit. But there was a bit of variety. Also, just to remind you, I mentioned this last week, I'm not running a session on the 30th, so we're here next week, but then there'll be a break the week after. So something like this, I'll get something into the sky to start. So this is the water mixable oils, and I've obviously sketched it out in a little bit of pastel pencil, then I've just mixed a sort of palish colour. I mean, it's not a blue sky, it's more kind of a warmish colour. So I've sketched out with pastel pencil, and I find that if I just really scrub the paint in, I'm not actually thinning the paint, but if I scrub it in, I should be able to, and not get too much in the places I don't want it, I should be able to then paint over the tops of some of it. So it's just working in a little bit. So that, I won't do the whole of the sky, but that's just a small section of it. Ideally, I want to make the colours less intense in the background. So these sort of greens back here are going to be more of a grey colour. So I'll mix something a little bit greyish with, I use ultramarine blue, and I've got a kind of yellowy mix here. And then just going to add a little bit of red to that, just to sort of grey that down a little bit. So it's sort of exaggerating what's there. So there's that bit's there. I'm not actually going to put the background bits, the shadows side, I'll use that. And tiny bit of cerulean blue into that. Just to see what that looks like. Sometimes I like to put a colour down and then paint other colour into it. I think that gives quite a nice, just sort of breaks it up a bit and livens it up. So that's a kind of an approach or technique that I've picked up over the last few years that I think can liven areas, particularly shadow areas. And then the lighter bits, I use the same mix and a little bit of white mixed in. So it's just about, green, but I want to keep that less intense than the colours up here. So that bit, this bit here, obviously tonally and lighter, but also I rather like this sort of contrast here where you've got the. It's not a solid colour, so you could probably put some, maybe I'll put some of this same colour that I've used here into that, but just add a little bit of yellow. Let's scrub some of that in. So it's nice to get a background colour in that I can then work into. So there's warm colours in there, almost like sort of pinky colours. So I'll add a little bit of a pinky colour to that. And it's these are your paintings, so do feel free to edit bits out. Like I rather like that as a street scene, but I find this is a bit in the way, so I'd either get rid of it or maybe move it over. Because it competes with the church. This is just. Sorry? Yeah, to start with, but then I would then add a few little marks like that. Yeah. A bit like I did with this one yesterday. Trying to build up a variety of brush strokes. So sort of over here, I used a lot smaller brush than me because these were further back. Yeah. And these were actually, this tree, I didn't do a great job of depicting this, but these had really big leaves on. And I was trying to get us, and there was areas that were all kind of quite light, then areas that went dark, then light again. So I wouldn't say it's a complete success, but it's trying to get a variety of marks to suggest the different leaves and textures. So maybe some sort of darker bits like that. I've seen some of my students get something like one of these brushes and do this sort of thing. And to me, it's a bit limiting. You know, it's a bit limited. I don't think it looks great. It doesn't look much like the sensation to me of looking at trees. But I think, you know, there are books that will suggest that you do that. I prefer to use a whole range of brushes and a whole range of marks, really. Perhaps some lighter.
I do that more with grass, you know, the fan brush sometimes with grasses.
Yeah. I think, I mean, you could include that, you know, maybe those sort of marks, but maybe try and use other brushes as well, so that you're not just cloning the same mark. You know, try and be sort of sensitive to what the impression of what's there. That possibly would, it's hard to see that because we probably need some darks there against the tree trunk. So just put a little bit of so this is brown and blue, tiny bit of white because it's not very, very bright. So, you know, we're seeing it against something that's probably a bit too blue, but it's something like that sort of tone. And then these ones here, just swap to another brush just for those things here. And a warm yellowy brown. So what I've got here is red and yellow mixed to make a nice bright orange. That's obviously far too bright. And then I think either some brown or blue just to tone that down a bit. Maybe blue might be better. Let's try blue. Yeah, one or the other. So that's with blue in. Yeah, I think that's slightly closer. There's almost sort of green in there as well, so like that. And then you could, there are areas of light like that, so I'll probably paint around there. Again, just sort of scrubbing the first layer in, but I can then, want to make that a little bit greener, add a slightly greener mix in. So get some slightly subtle sort of colour shifts, but it's still the same tone, but the colour shifts a little bit. I think that can create an interesting look and feel. Maybe a little bit more green in there. And then for odd individual leaves at the tips, you know, I tend to see the leaves around here more than I would in this mass. You could go back in just add some stronger colours. Just a few kind of sort of break into that mass a little bit. Brush like that. Just a few dots and dashes. Just give the impression of the light up and through. So basically that's how it would work. And then with these lighter areas, once I've got some shadows in, I could then pop some lighter bits in too. So just line that up right up. Again, a lighter version of the sort of orangey colour. Something a little bit more like that. I'm working that in places. So it's kind of process I work, kind of background to foreground. Obviously, a pub buildings into with that sort of scene or some buildings, and then just working out darker to light in each area. But yeah, try and keep the brushwork as lively as you can.
Yeah, that's the key.